Yep. Good morning, everyone. So, yesterday we learned about MongoDB, how to set up MongoDB server and MongoDB Compass tools. So, we are learning how to build a end-to-end application. For building end-to-end application, we are first learning how to create the database. And what we learned in previous session, how to set up the MongoDB database. So we learned about how to start the server and how to communicate with the server using a tool called Compass. Today, we will see how to handle all operations on the database. So here we need to understand one important terminology. So you need to understand the terminology first here. Terminology is actually in other databases and in MongoDB, what are the differences we will find? Actually, in Oracle or MySQL or SQL Server like databases, and we have a MongoDB like database. Generally, in Oracle, MySQL, SQL Server, like usually data is kept in a place and we call it as database. So what is database? Database is a store where data is kept. It is a store where data is kept. In MongoDB also, we call as database. That means in Oracle, MySQL, all these are SQL based. Here also we have database, MongoDB also database. In database, how they store the data? Actually, Oracle, MySQL, all these databases, they store the data in tables. Usually data is stored in a table. MongoDB don't have table. MongoDB have a collection. So in MongoDB, we don't have tables. We don't call them as tables. So we call them as what? Collection. We call them collection. So MongoDB database. In database, data is present in collection, no tables. Oracle and MySQL and SQL Server, all these databases, they store data in a table. But here we don't have tables. We have collection. In table, how data is stored? In table, data is stored in a row. That means we call it as a record. Record is nothing but, every record is nothing but it is a row. Record. Table contains records. Every record resembles a row. In MongoDB, it is called document. So we don't have tables and we don't have records. We have collection and we have document. And every record have a field name. Field name is nothing but column name. And in MongoDB also, every document have a field. So every document have a field, but you can call it as a key. You can call as a key because here every document is an object and collection is like an array. Collection is an array, document is an object. So in MongoDB, data is kept in database. In database, data is kept in collection. In collection, data is present in documents. So collection is an array and documents are objects. That means MongoDB keeps all the data like a JSON. Already in JavaScript, we know JSON. So MongoDB's data will be in JSON form, JavaScript object notation. So generally in other databases, they have joins. And here we call them as embedded documents. Embedded document we call it as. You have a join and we have an embedded document. So that is the terminology of a MongoDB database. So in MongoDB, where data is kept, it is kept in a database. And in database, it is kept in collection. Inside the collection, you have document and every document have a field, key and value collection. In a document, you can have multiple documents embedded. So generally, so database, so it is a store. And collection, it keeps the data for any business module. It keeps data for any business module. Document. So it is an object. And actually, we call it as JSON. This is a JSON type object with a key and value collection. So these are the three basic things you should know. So in MongoDB, the data is kept in a database. And in the database, we have collection. And every collection have a document. Generally, what Oracle or MySQL, all these people tell, we have a database. In the database, we have tables. In the tables, we have records. But here, database, collection, document. That is the order. Now, let's see how to handle them, how we can create, configure, and use them. So here, another important concept is if we want to design a database. Usually in MongoDB, we have a GUI tool. Without using any commands, we can directly create everything. But as a developer, we have to learn the commands. By using these commands only, any technology can handle the database. Suppose you are building a app in Java, .NET, PHP, Python, Node.js, and all this. These apps need to communicate with the database. Then through commands only they can communicate. So you need to learn about MongoDB commands. So these are actually shell commands. People who are learning databases like Oracle, MySQL, they don't learn commands, they learn queries. And those queries are written in a language called SQL. They use a language SQL, through that they can handle. But here all are simple commands. You don't need queries like Oracle or MySQL. So let's see what are the commands we are having. First, important in the commands, to view the list of existing databases on server. We have to just use the command show dbs. That is a simple command for viewing the list of existing database. So what are the databases available on server? So if you are first time using, by default some databases will be there. If you are watching the device of any another project people, already they may have some existing database. If you want to see what are the databases available, this is the command show dbs. So let's open MongoDB Compass. That is the client tool you have to use. In this MongoDB Compass, so we are connecting with server. Yesterday I told you the connection string, how to connect. After that, already graphically everything is visible, but to test the commands, at the bottom you will have a shell. Open this Mongo shell. In this Mongo shell, we can try the commands. So here commands are case sensitive because they are all JavaScript based. Capitalization matters, every command. Show DBS, that is to view the list of all databases we have. You can see it will show the list of all databases we are having. Actually, I have a lot of databases. So by default, 3 databases are available in every PC. One is admin, another one local, another one config. So they are used for managing the server administration and all. So we don't need to worry about them. So to view the databases, you need the command show dbs. Next one, to view active database. So you should use db is the command. DB is the command which will show currently which database is active. Actually, which database is active? It will show here itself. This is test currently. But sometimes this prompt is not visible. Then we need to know currently which database we are working with. Then we have to use the command DB. It will show the current database name. Current active database is what? Test. But I want to use specific database. That means show DBS. There are so many databases. In order to work with any database, you have to switch to that database. So to switch to any database, so to switch or to create a new database, to switch or to create a new database, we have a command use and database name. What is meant by switch is nothing but if already database is there, it will start using the database. If database is not there, it is used to create a database. So here two conditions are there. So if database name is new, then it creates. So if database name is existing, then it starts using. So if a database is new, if database name is new, then it creates a database by that name. If a database is an existing name, it will start using that database. So we have a command called use database. So here I want to use a database called shopping. Then you can simply use shopping. Then it will switch to that database. Switch to the database called shopping, and currently shopping is there. From any place, you can create a new database. So just use some new name, any new database name. Automatically, the database is created. So new name is what? For example, I will give a new name as uh, like React data, something like this we give it. React data is the database name, and hit enter. Automatically, it will create the database. But remember, in MongoDB, the database that you created is temporary until or unless you have some tables inside. If there are no tables inside, here we don't call tables, we call them as collection. If there are no collections inside, automatically this is deleted. When I close MongoDB, automatically this database is deleted. It will be temporarily available until you create some collection inside. That is the reason you created a database called React data, but it will not show in list. You see, show DBS. Show DBS, you see in the list, There is no database called React data. We don't have a database called React data. Currently, we are in the database React data, but in the list, there is no React data. In the list, there is no React data. There is only React video library, React DB, but React data is not there. So your database will not be displayed. So here, new database is not displayed. In a list until or unless it have some collections. Until or unless it have some collections, it is not going to show in the list. So we just created a database. After creating database, now next important is in database how to store the data. In database, in order to store the data, we have to create a collection. Create a new collection. Here collection is like what? Table. So to create a new collection, we have to use the command db.create collection. Collection name and options. That is how we create a table. The collection name and the options. How do you create a collection? Means how to create a collection and how to define the collection. Collection have the collection name and the options will be there. Actually, these options are not mandatory. You can create collection with just name. No need to give options. If you don't give options, automatically options are taken. If we want, we can give options for collection. Collection means table. What are the options available? We have option and description. Now, what are important options while creating a table? When you are creating a table collection, what are the options available is we have an option called auto index ID. Auto index ID. Actually, it is a Boolean type. Boolean type means true or false. Auto index ID is nothing but it generates a unique ID for every document. It generates a unique ID for every document. So it generates a unique ID for every document when set to true. Generates a unique ID for every document. Actually, in many databases, what we have to do, suppose you are storing some products details. With the same name, several products may be there. Then how to identify any particular product? Usually in other database, they use a field. They call it as primary key. Primary key is a unique key. Every record will have a unique identification. In other databases, we have to manually create one primary key and we need to set that primary key. For example, every student have an ID, every product have an ID, and the ID given for one student is not given for another. A unique reference ID is required. And in MongoDB, the specialty is if you set auto index ID true, for every record, one ID is automatic generated. If you don't want, you want to create your own IDs, then you set it to false. By default, it is true. That means if you don't mention it, automatically a unique ID will be generated. For every document, a unique ID is generated. That is actually auto index ID. But recently they announced that in future versions of MongoDB, they are going to remove this. But currently it is there. But officially they announced that in the future versions of MongoDB, they are going to remove this one. But still we are using this and it is available. Another important is size. Size is a number type. Size is a number type. It defines the memory. It defines the memory for memory allocated for collection. So value is defined in bytes. The value is defined in bytes. How much memory you want to allocate for collection? That means for every table, we can allocate memory. For every table, we can allocate memory. That means we can say that for this collection, 5 MB. That means for every collection, we can have a fixed size. Now, what happens if the size is completed? That means the memory allocated is completed. Actually, when you mention the size, you can also mention max. Max is also a number. Max is also a number. What is this max is? It defines the maximum number of documents allowed. How many documents are allowed? You can put a number also. That means you can say 10, you can say 20, you can say 5, like that. That means how many documents I can have in a collection. The limit we can set. We can set a number like 5 or 4 or 10 or 15, like that. Now, the point is, suppose I kept the max limit as 5 and I kept the size as 5 MB. Now, I stored the sixth one. What will happen? Limit is 5. I given max as 5. When I try to store the sixth one, what will happen? That depends on capped. Capped is a boolean. Boolean. Capped is a boolean. You can set true or false. That means you set the limit as 5 and you say capped true. Capped true means it is sealed. Sealed. That means now what happens now when you store sixth one, it will say memory full. You cannot store any records. because the limit is what? 5. After that, you capped it. Capped means you sealed it. No more records can be added into this. If you say capped as false, capped false means you haven't sealed it, but limit is 5. Then what will happen when you store sixth one? The old one will be deleted and this new one will be added. That means always 5 only will be there, but the old records are removed and the new records are added in that place. That means now the first one will be deleted and the sixth one will go and store. That means the list will be 5 only. That depends on what? Capped. If capped is true, you cannot add more records. If capped is false, you can add more records, but by removing the existing, overwriting the existing. So that depends on capped. So if set to true, then it will not allow to add more documents. After the limit, after the max limit. If set to false, then it will overwrite the old documents with new. That is the point. So how to create a collection? Syntactically, we do like this: db dot create collection. Suppose the collection name categories. Categories is a collection. And you can have options like auto index ID, true. And size, how much? Size we have to mention in bytes. So suppose 1024 bytes is equal to 1 kilobyte. 1024 bytes equal to 1 KB. 1 KB. Then 1024 into 1024 is equal to 1 MB. That is 1 MB size. 1 MB into some 2. This is 2 MB size. Into 3, 3 MB into 4, 4. You know measurement units. This is how we calculate the size. So I will copy this and we will mention the bytes, but without any comma you have to mention like this. This is 2 MB. So the value must be mentioned in bytes. So usually how you calculate the bytes here? You know how to calculate the bytes? 8 bits is equal to what? 1 byte. 1024 bytes is equal to 1 kilobyte. 1024 kilobytes is equal to 1 megabyte. 1024 megabytes is equal to 1 gigabyte. And 1024 gigabytes is equal to 1 terabyte. These are the basic measurements you have, right? So Based on that, the size is always mentioned in bytes. In computing system, even your disk may show that you have 2 GB free or 5 GB free, but internally it calculates through bytes only directly. Suppose you see, when I open D drive, means command prompt. When I open my D drive, I want to see the disk space, then dir. It will say how many bytes free. It will not show in GB or MB. It will always be in bytes only, always in bytes. So usually that is actually how you measure. Okay. Next, max. Max, how many records you want? I want 5. Max 5 records I want to store. And what about capped? Capped, we can set it to what? True. This is how we create a collection. That is how we can create the collection. Creating the collection. How do you design a collection? These are all the options you can define. Actually, you can simply create db.create collection, and without giving the name, without giving the attributes, you can just simply create like this. Those options are not mandatory. If you don't give options, what is default auto index ID? Default auto index ID is true. What is size and max? Size and max, that is depending on the memory available on your PC. That is not fixed. Capped is true. Capped is always true. Why? Because if there is a memory full, then it will say you can't add more records. That's, but how many records you can store, we are not sure. That depends on how much memory allocated on that particular device. That is important. So we can create a collection by adding data into that collection, right? So, but data is not there. Currently, we just created a empty table. We don't have any data inside it. We just have a table. We just have a collection. So to create collection, we have to use this method. Now, how to see what are the collections available in my database? Then you can just use to view the collections. Uh, to view the collections in database, just we have to use show collections. That is the command. So let's create a collection here. To create a collection, db dot create collection. Collection name is categories, and the options auto index ID is true. Size is in bytes. We will remove this comma. So max is some 5. Capped is true. Like this we are having. Now enter, automatically a collection is created. You can also have db dot create collection products and just hit enter. It's also created. Those options are not compulsory. Now show collections. It will show the collections we are having. We have categories and we have products. Now show DBS. In the databases, now you can see React data is available. React data is available. Earlier, it was not available even after you created it, because a database is not permanent until or unless it has some collection. So we need to create a collection and define the collection. So database is created and some collections are created. Now in the collection, how to store data? So add data into collections. Add data into collection. For that, we have two methods. Insert one and we have insert many. And remember here, data is JSON type. It is an JavaScript object notation. So that means it is a key and a value collection. And you know that key is a string and value can be any JavaScript data type. Can be any JavaScript data type. JavaScript data type means what? It can be any primitive type or it can be any what? Non-primitive type. What are the JavaScript primitive, non-primitive types? You already know them. It can be number, string, boolean. So it can be array, object. Actually, in databases, data types are different. Oracle data types are different. MySQL data types are different. But in MongoDB, they are all JavaScript data types. Even date type, how you store a date, configure a date. So generally, we will see how to handle different data type. So here, how to add data into collection? db dot collection name. Collection name is the table name that you created, dot insert one, and it is an object. So if it is db dot collection name, we have insert many, and it is an array of objects. Array of objects. You know array, how to manage. You can define array of objects. That means you can add one record, you can add multiple records. Actually, in graphical interface, we also have a facility of uploading a JSON file. Already you have data in a JSON file, you can simply upload it. Automatically, data will be stored. Through JavaScript also, directly you can store data into this database. So how we can insert data into a collection? For example, so we have the table called show collections. We have categories and products. Into categories table, we want to store some data. Then how to store data into categories? db dot categories. Categories. First important, make sure that you are in the database that you are working with. Sometimes you are in a different database, you are using a different table name, then it will go wrong. So categories dot what? Insert one. Actually, in previous version, we used to have three commands: insert, insert one, insert many. Now we don't have insert command. In the latest version, we have insert one, insert many. Because when you try to watch some help on videos and on internet, you will see some people using insert method, which is outdated and not available in latest version. We have only insert one and insert many. Insert one, then here you mention a document. Key. Key is category ID. So, and what is the ID? Number one. And category name. Category name is some electronics. It is a string type. Same JavaScript data types. You have to define them. Now hit enter. That means one category is stored. Acknowledge it to true. That means one is created. If you want to add multiple, if you want to add multiple, more than one at a time, then what you can do, I will copy this one first. Okay, this is an example. So if you want to add multiple, then you have to use db.categories.insert many. Insert many array, array of object. We have a category ID is 2. Category name is some footwear and another object. So category ID is 3. So yeah, 3. And category name is some fashion, something like this. Now hit enter. It is going to add those two also. So we can add data one or many. This is many, right? I will copy this is many. You can add one or many records. Achha. Insert many. Mm, it is not copying. Okay. Okay. This is insert one and this is insert many. Yeah? Right. That is. So we can add database, we can add collection, we can add data into the collection. We can add. And you can see that actually in graphical interface, you see this is the graphical interface. In the graphical interface, you can directly go here and say React refresh. You see React data is available. In that you have two collection categories and products. You click on categories. You see create collection. You can add a collection directly. And here you see click on categories. You see in the categories, there are 3 records. You can see there are 3 records here. And if you want to add records, you can go to add insert document. You don't need commands. Directly you can do like this. Insert document and enter a document. Here you should be very strongly defining them like a JSON. Here key names, string type compulsory. Value can be any JavaScript type you have to mention. You have to use that. This is how generally we handle the data. Now, there is another technique actually. In graphical mode, what you can do is you can upload a JSON file direct. When you upload a JSON file, then it is going to add the data directly into the data table. For example, see products. Products is having 0 documents. I want to add the products. So what I can do is, okay, let's do one thing. We will go to fake store. We have fake store API. In that we have products. Here we have 20 products data. Okay, I will copy all this data and open Notepad, paste all the data and save this as products data dot JSON. Products data dot JSON. You save it as JSON. On desktop, I am saving it. Okay, these all records are stored as JSON. Okay, now close. Now go to MongoDB. Here, add data into React data products. Add data, import JSON. You can select import JSON. And where is the JSON file? Products data JSON file. And select that file. And you see products data JSON and click import. Automatically all the documents are imported. 20 documents ready. That means if you already have some data in a JSON file, you can simply import that. Otherwise, you can manually add also, right? So for example, how you can handle the data. So for example, suppose I am dealing with db dot products, products dot what insert one. You can have any kind of data. ID is one. So some title is some TV. So price is some price. After that, we have some stock. Stock is what? True. We have rating. Rating is again an object. Object, it contains rate is some 3.4. It have count from 500. Rating close. You can have cities. Cities is an array. In that we have Delhi. In that we have Hyderabad, like that. Like that, we can have some complex data. That means now this is one record and you are inserting that record. In that record, you have a number, you have a string, you have a boolean, we have an array, and we have an object. Just like how you deal with your JavaScript, JSON, the same you have to manage your data, right? So how we can add the data? Here, one additional thing you should know is, one additional concept you should know is how to store date type. How to store a date type. Array directly, object also directly. There is no problem in that. But date, how you will store. So how you manage the date type, that is important. Actually, suppose you want to store date data type, then example, you say as departure. Departure, how you store a date? You know, in JavaScript JSON, you cannot use new date. That is invalid. You cannot use date constructor. In JSON, you cannot use a date constructor. You store like a string, then it becomes a string. You cannot store like this 2024. So 0616 like this. You know that date is in which format? Year, month, day. But you cannot store like this. This is invalid. You put in a double quote, it becomes a string. Then how do you store the dates? To store the date, actually, you need an operator, dollar date operator we need. We have some special operators. By using those operators, we need to store the values. And with this operator, you can store in a string form. What this operator will do is it will convert that into a date and it will store as a date. Otherwise, it is not a valid date. Actually, you observe here, you can see the structure. Um, for example, I will temporarily show you here in the data. We are having the data like this, and this data is what this is number, this is string, this is also number, all are string, and this is an object. Object again contains two details. One is rate, another one is count. Suppose I am adding one date extra. Suppose temporarily I will show you here. Let's go to a edit option, edit document. So here add a field after which one? After rating. So here add a field. Yeah. Add a field after rating. Okay. After rating, I given as MFD. MFD is some manufacturer. And here we are mentioning 2024 01 22. And I given as suppose 1630. And data type, I am selecting as what type? Date. Data type I selected as date. And I updated this data. Update. It is updated. If you want to see the structure, how it looks like, right? You see here, object type symbol is there. You click on that object type. Now you can see that manufactured. Let's decrease the size. Yeah. You can see that the manufactured MFD is expand. You see it is a date operator. And it is storing in a string form only. It is storing in a string form. And you are managing the data in a string form. Right? That means you can handle the data in this format. Usually, how to store the date? How do we manage the date? Generally, to store the date, so we need to configure like this. The answer is by using $date operator. You can configure date and time. So syntactically, db.products.insert1. So roughly I'm giving MFD, manufactured. Just for clarity's sake, I am giving like this. This is one document. In this $date, here we have format I will give year. So month, day. After that, T. T is for time. And you need to give hours, minutes, seconds dot milliseconds. That's how actually we need to set up the date. So configuring the date and time values here, because new date will not work here. So configuring the dates and managing the dates. So that is how we define the date. So usually, suppose I will add a collection here, means temporarily let's put a collection there. Okay. So I'm creating a collection, db dot create collection travel, something like this. And in that, what we do, db dot travel dot insert one, insert one. So here we define uh, departure. So suppose I say station. So this is some Hyderabad. Okay. Then departure. Departure is a date. Date means you need to write like an object. In that object, we have to use an operator dollar what date. In that, we have to mention the date. In which form? Year, month, and a day. Year, month, day. And time, we need to set the time. Suppose 16:45, 45. Like this, we give it. Hours, minutes are enough here to define like. Now you are configuring the date in this way. That means it is inserted. Now let's check in the database. How to view the collection, I will show you. But see the graphical interface here, React data. And let's refresh. We have a table called travel. In that, we have one document. In the document, actually, departure have a date. Acha, it is stored as an object. Huh? So here we need to just make one change. Directly departure station. Suppose I say Mumbai. And here we are using the operator as date. What is this? Object is there. Clone is there. Huh? This is added. Let's check. It is shown in a wrong format. It is added in a object Style actually, it is not object. It should be what? Date. Let's check this edit. This is a date type. Acha. What is our document? Manufactured data type. It should not show us like a object. Where is our data? Travel. Some problem in this data type. Why it is there? Date type. Acha, date is defined as an object. Huh? Date. Why it is having some issue? Let's check. So db dot travel dot insert one, and in this, what is it? Station. It is having some station. Okay, some value, and it is having departure. Departure is having what? Dollar. Date. And twenty 24 02 11. It is expecting the date value. Operator directly date type and string type. Where is this one? Is not there, right? Acha, from command prompt we are inserting. In command prompt, we should not mention key as string type. That is the problem. So that is okay. Now it's fine. Huh? Actually, this is okay to mention in string form when you are inserting from GUI mode, graphical mode. From command prompt, when you are using, operator must be what? Date. So here, this is okay when you are doing from which location? GUI. GUI. From command prompt, if you are doing, then you should not mention this as what? String type. This you have to mention as a simple date. That is only the point. Okay, now you can see the new record is added, and you refresh here. Okay, and you see another document is there. Now departure is a date. That means you can see its data type will be in a date format correctly. That is the correct way of configuring the date. So you should not mention this in what type? String type. You need to just mention as a $date. That's enough. This is storing the date. So another important question here is, one more point is, how to store any, we can say, embedded document. How to store embedded document? It is a common one. So that means can define, you can define as a JSON object, JSON object within the object. We can define JSON object within the object. JSON object within the object, that is what embedded documents are. Already I showed you in above example, rating cities, how we can store. Above already we mentioned, above already I given that. That is having a rating and all these options. Okay. Now, the concept is how we can read the documents. That means you stored the documents. That means now next option, querying documents from collection. How you query documents from collection? What we have to do? Querying documents from collection, you have to use db.collection name dot find method we have to use. And here you need to mention query. Just like array have a filter and find methods, you have to use what? Find. It is used to read all the records. In this query, lot of query operators are used. We will learn about those operators. Actually, if you define db.products.find and empty, this is nothing but it will return all documents. If you want any specific document, then what you have to do? We have to write a query inside this block. And how do we write the query? For that, we have some important operators. That means the query can be key colon value. This is nothing but it returns exact match. That means the value that is matching with that particular reference of key. It will return that option. So if you want to read the contents, what you have to do here? So to read the contents, what we need to do? db dot suppose categories dot find. It is going to find and show all the records. That means it is going to read and return all the records. I want to read only the second one. Then what you do? db dot categories dot find, and here ID is matching with, not ID, field name is what? Category ID is matching with 2. That means it will get only the second record and show. Now we can have a lot of queries here. That means lot of query operators will be there. Generally, in other databases, what they do, they have select queries, select, where, and operators will be there. Here also we have so many operators for querying. We have operators like $LT. This is less than. $LTE less than or equal. $GT greater than. $GTE greater than or equal. $NE not equal. $END, $OR, logical and logical OR. These are all the operators that are required for querying. By using these operators, we can query the data and display. That means I want all the products whose price is above 500. I want the products between 500 to 1000. I want the products whose category is electronics and the price is above 500. We have to write the queries. For that, all these operators are. Generally, writing these queries is just like you write a if condition. When you write an if condition, how the levels of query will be that same. But how we use these queries, we will see in a next session. Tomorrow we will do that. In tomorrow's session, we will finish all the commands. What are the commands we have to learn? Creating, reading, updating, and deleting. CRUD operation related commands. How to insert, how to read, how to update, and delete. If we can do that, then what we will do now? We will create a database according to our project, and we will use that in the React applications. That we'll see in next session. Tomorrow we'll do that. Okay, right.